More than 10 years ago, we warned about what would happen to the climate. And today, we are living in the exact situation we described back then. A decade ago, Alatra volunteers alerted the global community to the intensification of climate anomalies. Today's reality has completely confirmed those forecasts. We clearly outline the trend toward increasing scale and frequency of climatic cataclysms in the coming decades, emphasizing the threat this poses to humanity. Yet, we were not heeded enough. In fact, many natural disasters could have been avoided. Now, as new records are broken every month, whether in temperature or other climate-related indicators, scientists throw up their hands, unable to explain the ever-growing discrepancies between their forecasts and actual results. Even so, they continue to criticize our climate model. Meanwhile, we, the Alatra volunteers, persist in informing the public about the climate. In my previous videos, I have repeatedly mentioned the magmatic hotbed beneath Siberia, commonly known as the Siberian plume. Some so-called opinion leaders, though it's hard to call them that considering their views are shaped by a 15-minute conversation with ChatGPT, are offering their expert conclusions, while jumping on the hype around the Siberian plume topic. I was shown a video where one such TikTok expert tells his audience that the topic of the Siberian plume, which has now filled the global internet space, is allegedly a fake. He argues that he researched the topic using ChatGPT and concluded that a magma breakthrough beneath Siberia is possible, but it would take hundreds of millions of years. And the precursors to such an event would be earthquakes of magnitude 7 to 8 in the region and geyser activity. Yet, according to him, for the past 20 years, the area has only experienced earthquakes of magnitude 4 to 5. Here's my response to all those self-proclaimed experts chasing hype. When earthquakes of such magnitude along the geysers begin to occur in the Siberian region, it will mean only one thing. There are merely minutes, at best hours, remaining until a plume breaks through. It will happen completely unexpectedly. Moreover, let's not forget that vast oil and gas basins are located in both western and eastern Siberia. This means that the porous rocks there contain not only oil and gas, but also enormous amounts of formation water. When scorching magma meets the underground fluids, it will accelerate the destruction of the lithospheric plate many times over. As for the claim that such an event would take millions of years, may I remind you that the so-called Siberian traps erupted 250 million years ago? Hasn't enough time passed for another magma breakthrough to occur? But most importantly, you cannot escape the truth and reality. No matter how much you might wish to, no matter what haters and those chasing hype may invent, no matter what fairy tales they spin to misinform the public about the climate, the facts remain undeniable. People see what is happening. There are many well-informed, conscious, and thoughtful people in the world. Russians themselves understand that this winter is abnormally warm, not only for Siberia, but for many other regions of Russia. Not to mention how dramatically the climate in this country has changed over the past year and a half, since Alatra's experimental equipment was shut down after the organization was officially declared undesirable on this territory. Record-breaking wind speeds that sweep off rooftops and people off the streets. Unprecedented floods torrential rains, tornadoes, hurricanes, sudden temperature spikes, abnormal heat, and record snowfalls. This is the reality people in Russia are witnessing today. Amid the debate over whether Siberia will explode or not, many overlook the crucial point. When the Siberian plume finally breaches, millions of people will have no time to react because it will happen in an instant. And after them, the rest of Russia and the world will die from the consequences of this breakthrough. Watch my previous videos to understand what I mean. But the most terrifying part is what will occur before that moment. What I've described above is already part of the process, and it will only escalate further. More than 10 years ago, Alatra volunteers warned about what would happen to the climate in the coming years. And today, what we described back then is fully confirmed by what we see outside our windows and in global news reports. Back then, over a decade ago, we, the Alatra volunteers who did everything possible to get this information to the people, began to face persecution for our warnings. What we talked about and continue talking about isn't just about numbers, graphs, or temperature charts. Behind all of this are human lives. Lives of people who, tragically, are already losing everything in natural disasters. Their loved ones and their own lives. Because our warnings for over 10 years ago were ignored. What's even more appalling is that, while many people are enduring this tragic reality, there are these self-proclaimed experts with their ChatGPT-level knowledge alleging that Alatra cult is supposedly scaring people by spreading fake news about the Siberian plume and climate change in order to recruit followers and grab their money. Excuse me, but where would we even recruit you? And why the hell would we need idiots like you spreading such nonsense? Where can we possibly call and invite you when, in some countries, Alatra volunteers are being ruthlessly persecuted and harassed by FSB agents acting on orders from Dworkin? To recruit you to join in on the genocide? So you endure torture at the hands of the FSB agents like our former members in Russia? Or maybe we should invite you to prison, where people are held on fabricated criminal charges. Or to interrogations where they break noses and ribs, administer electric shocks, and even place bags over our heads to intimidate, torture, suffocate, and force confessions? Or to Ukraine for interrogations, where criminal cases have been opened against Alatra volunteers based on false experts' reports by Dworkin's followers. So, excuse me for being blunt, but we don't need you or your money. If this kind of climatic situation continues as it is today, soon you won't even need your money anymore. Bread and water, that's what will hold value. And we don't need your money because we handle everything with our own funds. We even spend our own time and resources to inform those idiots who have been brainwashed by Dworkin's sect. We spend our time outside of work, late at night, without days off or vacations, to study the climate and convey this information to people. We have no subsidies, sponsorships, or grants. All we have are honest, smart people who are subjected to brutal, inhumane torture and persecution simply for speaking the truth. Alatra volunteers have been subjected to a campaign of genocide for over a decade simply because, back in 2014, they spoke the truth in a report about climatic processes. These processes, as predicted, have been escalating rapidly over the years and now pose a serious threat to humanity. Moreover, the classified part of that report, which detailed the risks of a magmatic plume breakthrough under Siberia and proposed solution to this threat, became the trigger for the onset of this genocide. The proposal to resolve the problem through planned magma degassing beneath Siberia interfered with the interest of those who value Russia's natural resources, power, and money above all else. In response to the truth, we received prison sentences, torture, and abuse. Such is constitutional Russia with its so-called freedoms and rights. So tell me, who is recruiting followers and where? Such lies about Allatra are spread only by those who value nothing but money and power. They are the very followers of the one and only most dangerous totalitarian sect, the sect of the great guru Dvorkin. His entire network of agents, including recruited FSB officers and representatives of legislative and religious authorities, merely hides behind anti-cult activities while establishing a titular religion and fighting to fulfill their manic ambitions to torture people. There are no decent people in his cult because only maniacs can persecute, torture, and abuse innocent people, destroy families, snatch children away, and drive people to suicide. And if you have forgotten, let me remind you who Alexander Dvorkin is. A dark genius who has been elevated to the rank of the greatest guru in Russia. You may have forgotten who he was involved with in America not so long ago, before fleeing to Russia during the peak of the deprogrammers' activities. This was a time when they attacked and kidnapped people, when mothers were forcibly dragged from their homes in front of their own children, and then taken away in vans, tied up, face down, and held captive for a week. When parents paid tens of thousands of dollars to a couple of maniacs so that these perpetrators would rape, starve, and torture their daughter. When people were held captive for weeks, beaten, and subjected to all kinds of abuse. And it all began with relatives being brainwashed into believing their children had joined a cult and needed deprogramming to get out of it. Deprogramming, of course, paid for by the parents because otherwise their children would be lost. Tell me, who is capable of such acts? Would any sane person with a healthy psyche really subject innocent people to such abuse? But as soon as criminal cases were initiated in America against these maniacs, Dvorkin's friends, he immediately fled from America to Russia. Do you know why he hates Scientologists so much? Because they are the ones who exposed all of Dvorkin's deprogrammer accomplices in America. After his return to Russia, driven by an insatiable thirst for power and under the guise of fighting what he called sects and cults, he created his own totalitarian sect, built on the ideology of the successors of Nazi teachers, Agard, Hawk, and the one who taught the Nazis the most brutal and inhumane methods of persecution, Walter Kunith. Dvorkin's anti-cult cover is, in reality, nothing more than a distribution network that uses manipulation techniques and psychological conditioning to sell Nazism and the opportunity to torment others. This has become beneficial for both the church and the state. He has brainwashed everyone. The FSB, the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and Russia's legislative and judicial systems are all under the thumb of Guru Dvorkin. And if you doubt it, just look at Russia today. Where are the constitutional laws, rights, and fair courts? Where are the law enforcement agencies that are supposed to protect the people? They defend Dvorkin's Nazi ideology, built on torture and human suffering. And when the church in a country gives its blessing to murder, what can you expect? When Jesus said, If someone slaps you on one cheek, turn to them the other also. Meanwhile, representatives of the church in Russia bless nuclear weapons and instruct us to load bullets with prayers so as to not miss the target when shooting.
Who exactly are they following?
Is this what Jesus taught? This is the harsh reality of life. This is what Dvorkin has done to Russia and to Orthodoxy by infiltrating every level of government with his Nazi agent network, Ratziers. The fact that Dvorkin's network is essentially a cult isn't something I made up. The clear signs of his cultist activities were pointed out even when his organization, Ratziers, was just beginning to form. This has been repeatedly reported in the media, and even Russia's honorary advocate and doctor of law, Anatoly Pchelintsev, expressed a similar view. Moreover, in connection with Dvorkin, the term chief sectarian is also used by those who were once part of this sect and, upon disagreeing with his ideology, were persecuted and expelled. For example,
Vladimir Golovin.
And now, as a result of the persecution, Vladimir Golovin has been stripped of his ecclesiastical title by Dvorkin's order. You see what this guru does to his followers and accomplices when they begin to disagree with him? Where are they all? He has expelled everyone. He cares about nothing and no one. He loves only himself and hates everyone else. But I'll tell you one thing. He started with maniacs, and he will end up at the hands of maniacs. Why do I say this? You'll see for yourself. It's neither prophecy nor a threat. It's life. You reap what you sow. What did this man-hater with maniacal tendencies sow? Only hatred. He has deftly manipulated law enforcement agencies, the FSB, the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and even influenced judicial systems, so that now anyone who does not conform to his Nazi ideology can be declared undesirable and branded as extremists. The time will come when his sect will be destroyed. The people will destroy it themselves, for destroying their constitutional rights, for destroying the Orthodox Church and turning it into a political sect under his control. It won't be long, this year or next, before Russians see that we were right and that they were lied to. Under the leadership of this so-called great guru and his sectarians, like Novopashin, the people were misled and their lives were ruined. But the worst thing this Dvorkin-led totalitarian sect has sown is the inability of Alatra volunteers to operate within Russia. By his order, he set the FSB agents on our former volunteers, who broke into their homes with pious words about the respected Professor Alexander Dvorkin, their favorite guru. And now, instead of Alatra scientists studying the climate in this region, instead of having the opportunity to do something with the protection of this country and for the whole world from the breakthrough of the Siberian plume, our participants are in prison, and those who were luckier have lost their jobs and are forced to move and face constant social pressure. When a country's priorities are the propagation of Dvorkin's sectarian ideology and disinformation, rather than the lives and legal rights and freedoms of its people, we can no longer do anything. What I'm talking about is not politics. We are outside of politics and religion. Don't project your desires and ambitions onto us, or the things you can blame yourselves for. We call things by their true names and have always advocated for people's freedom and democracy. For us, the climate has always been a priority in bringing this information to the people. And the fact that in one country we were labeled as enemies of the people, well, a few years will pass, and everyone will see who the enemy is and who the friend is. Intelligent people already see this. Yes, there are also fools who don't understand it, those whose brains have been washed by Dvorkin's sect, his followers. They believe that if their house is in order, still standing in its place, and they can earn a few more coins to spend on bread, then everything in the world is fine. But thoughtful people already see what is happening with the climate worldwide and know that we were telling the truth then, and we are still telling the truth. And thank God, there are more and more of these people. But if we weren't speaking the truth, and everything we predicted 10 years ago wasn't being confirmed by what is happening with the climate in these previous years, why would this Dvorkin-led misanthropic sect be fighting us so hard all over the world? Answer this. Why have we been subjected to genocide for 10 years? If we were lying in favor of the world's powers that be and Dvorkin, they would praise us and award us. Instead, they torture us while giving medals and orders to Dvorkin and his sectarians. Now, what will people pin on them in a few years? We'll see. However, those who are really lying are the couch TikTok experts, who say that nothing is happening with the climate, that the Siberian plume is an alleged fake, and that Alatra is a sect just scaring everyone. If this expert hasn't grasped the essence of the problem, hasn't studied it, and is publicly lying to people, I would like to ask him, is he aware that he will have to answer when natural disasters hit your region, when your house is torn down, or, God forbid, when his loved ones are affected? Will he just say, "Oh, sorry, I was wrong"? And will you forgive him? Turn around and just go on? I'm now addressing you, the liars, those who misinform people about the global climate situation. Because of the smart ones, like you, people will suffer. They are already suffering. If you lack the intelligence to study climate science and develop solutions, at least inform people on how to act in the event of climate disasters. And study it yourselves. That would be useful. Stop chasing hype. 10 years ago, scientists were already hyping and mocking Alatra volunteers when they tried to convey factual information in our climate report. They shut their doors in front of our faces, claiming that everything we're saying might only happen 100 to 200 years from now. Yet now, experts and PhDs from various fields declare that the numerous record-breaking weather events of recent times force us to sound the alarm and reconsider the failure of climate models to effectively predict and prepare for unprecedented climatic impacts on human life. They claim that all existing climate models are dysfunctional, whereas our climate model simply does not exist for them. Everything we have been talking about all these years is happening now. But if it is happening now, that means what we predicted for the next 5 to 10 years will happen too. And believe me, we are not telling you this because we want it to happen. It's just mathematics. This is a science. And science does not tolerate inaccuracies. It is from this scientific standpoint that we speak about what will happen to the planet's climate in the coming years. They say that Alatra is just fooling people about the Siberian plume, that we are supposedly scaring them in order to recruit followers. Well, we don't need you, idiots. What fear-mongering are they talking about when all we do is provide basic information so that people know what is happening, what to expect, and how to act in an emergency, and how to relocate to a safe place in time? You yourselves are witnesses to what is happening around you. Look at how climate events in Russia are being concealed. These events are not even mentioned in the news. The entire world is filled with reports of natural disasters, climate events, and anomalies. Yet in your country, finding up-to-date information on climate is extremely rare. Not a single scientist has stepped forward to adequately address and identify this issue. The only ones speaking are some of Dvorkin's sectarians, who call themselves scientists, reassuring everyone that everything is fine, telling people to sleep peacefully and not worry. Meanwhile, ordinary people are posting videos and comments on social media stating the exact opposite, that Russia's winter is abnormally warm, that there are extreme temperature fluctuations, and that winds have intensified to a terrifying degree. But those who hide this vital truth about the climate, the truth that is crucial for people's survival, those who lie and spread disinformation while calling themselves experts and scientists, will soon have to answer to the people. After all, it is you, your families, and your loved ones who will suffer. And will you forgive these liars for the death of your loved ones? I don't believe it. At least, I wouldn't forgive them. Look at what has happened over the past 5 years. What kind of world did we live in 5 years ago? What were the climate conditions like? And what is happening now in 2025? This is called progression. Now multiply that. Use mathematics, and you will understand the situation you will soon find yourselves in and what lies beyond the threshold of a relatively stable world. And don't tell me I'm trying to scare you. I, like other Alatra volunteers, am merely explaining what is truly happening. I apologize for telling the truth. Some people find it uncomfortable, some don't like it. But that's your personal problem. And if you don't like what I'm saying, if you are so inhumane and have had your brains washed by Dvorkin's sectarians, then it's not about me, but about those who brainwashed you. But I must say that the majority of people in the world are intelligent and responsible, ready to help, and already coming to the aid of victims of cataclysms. We see this in the disasters happening around the world. And we, the Alatra volunteers, witness almost all of these catastrophes and understand the situation from the inside, unlike Dvorkin's sectarians. And what I'm saying is that every person, no matter who they are, must know how to behave in extreme climatic situations. Knowing exactly what to do, what steps to take first, where to run, and what to grab, can save not only your life, but also the lives of your loved ones, along with your neighbor and their family. A well-informed neighbor who understands the climate situation can save both you and your child. We, the Alatra volunteers, also stress the importance of adopting safety measures in today's reality. Every person must have their own backpack with essentials for an emergency, the so-called go bag. Such a backpack must include cash, documents, food, water, and warm clothing for several days. Because when a natural disaster strikes, you face it alone. No one will come to your aid right away. You must understand that. And in moments like this, blaming the government is pointless. Many climatic events today are unpredictable. They occur suddenly, and no one is immune to them. Therefore, do not expect the government to always have advance notice of an impending catastrophe. Do not expect someone to come immediately to your aid during an earthquake, flood, or hurricane. Apart from your neighbor, no one will. Dispatching rescue workers immediately into the epicenter of a disaster only endangers the lives of those emergency workers whose duty is to help the victims. Look at the bigger picture. Be humane and think. You must educate yourselves. That way, you'll not only be able to save yourself, but you'll also be able to help your neighbor. In fact, you are the only ones who can help your neighbor. Likewise, when your neighbor learns how to handle emergency climate situations, they will be able to help you because they'll know what to do. This is what experts and specialists should be telling people and what they should know. If politics and someone's thirst for power prevent humanity from globally solving the escalating climate changes, then let's think about how to increase our chances of survival. Life is worth fighting for, even if it means extending it by just one more day. After all, even a single day of life is an entire lifetime, and it's priceless.